In boardrooms across the world, leaders are betting the next decade on on AI. AI is writing code, approving loans, flagging frauds, screening resumes, and even making health risk predictions. For CISOs and CIOs, this creates a brutal paradox. The same AI defends your enterprise can quietly become your most dangerous weak link. Regulators are moving from attacks and experimenting, and your customers are trusting you with decisions you made at the machine speed. There is no longer just IT security, it's AI security, GRC, trust, architecture, brand survival roll out into one. Today's conversation sits in the intersection of cybersecurity, AI, strategy, and growth, where executive decisions shape whether AI becomes your competitive motto or your organization's public failure. Before we dive into the topic, let's have a small video about Power of Knowing Forum. Our guest today operates exactly at the fault line. Michael Joshua, founder and CEO of MICH Cybersecurity and a founder of ASEC community, works with teams who not just use AI but depend on it to detect threats, automate controls, and run their digital business. He brings the builder's mindset of a practitioner, the strategist view of systematic risk and global lens on how AI security and governance must evolve. He, his work sits firmly on the four pillars of technology, cybersecurity, strategy, growth, helping leaders turn AI driven into AI powered resilience. Let's welcome Joshua to the podcast screen and discuss on the topic. Hi, Michael. Welcome to our show.
Hello, Prem. Thank you for having me.
A small intro about yourself, Michael, to the audience.
Sure. My name is Michael Joshua. I'm the founder and CEO of MICH Cybersecurity. So about my background, I want to take you to my studies. I did my bachelor's at electronics and communication at 2011. I passed out. Then later I started jumping into the cybersecurity. So I did masters in information security and cyber forensics at Chennai. Later, I just entered into the corporate in Infosys, Wipro, and then ENY. I predominantly worked at the offensive cyber security side for over a period of experience of 14 plus years. And I jumped and now started my own firm. We are focusing on the AI powered cybersecurity, like we mainly focusing on AI, how AI can change in the cybersecurity space. So yes, it's been 1.5 year old company, and we are doing a lot of research activities in AI as well as the offensive and defensive part. So that's a brief introduction about me. So over to you, Prem.
Thank you, Michael, for that. Michael, see what we have started as AI, and we talk about AI everywhere, right? So AI is everywhere in the ecosystem today. And now, when you look at AI at large enterprise, where do you see it acting as a powerful shield, and where do you see it quietly becoming the weakest link in the cybersecurity stack?
Okay, where AI is acting as a powerful shield. Now, AI is like a very fast. security guard. Like as a shield, I would say that it watches the millions of activities. Like, for example, it would be able to spot the frauds, what are the attacks, and or what are the mistakes faster than human team. I am just talking only about the cybersecurity. It is acting in every field, right? We take from the fintech or in healthcare, um, electronics and communications, and what are the field, even in the education field, it has its huge impact. Here, the shield, what I am talking about, it watches and it can like spot the frauds, attacks faster than any human beings. But that's I call it as shield. But the weakest link I would say it as if it trainly, I'm going to train it back. Okay, I just feeding it wrong data, and it doesn't have any rules. So what it can do is it goes for a wrong decisions. So that's the weakest link I would say. For example, if I want to say like you hire a one robot or like guard for a mall, what the activity of that guard is, it has to scan what are the follow the people who are coming inside the mall. It has to scan the faces, what are the bags and what are the movements are there in a microseconds. It detect and tell you the senior level. So it is amazing production. But what happens if someone tricks it on camera, showing some fake faces or some same robot again and again, so that security guard opens the for the wrong people as well. So that is why we call it as AI is so powerful. But if that has more power without control, that goes for a dangerous things.
Okay. Now, how do we explain the paradox to the boards that see AI mainly as an efficient and innovative story, not security risk story?
Okay, to a board, I would say that AI is not just like another IT tool. It's now part of how we decide who gets approved, who gets blocked, who gets trusted. At like old systems, if you see that you only need to store the data, but here AI uses the data to make the choices, so that when AI is right, we move faster, cheaper, and smarter. But what happens when AI goes wrong? So we will fail very faster. In front of everyone, will fail faster. So that's the paradox, I would say. Only thing is like AI gives you speed, but security gives you the control for that particular AI. So without both, speed becomes a uh, risk for you. Yes.
Now, what you're saying is you need to have security which is in a controlled environment rather than giving everything as a uh, experiment, and then we find out there is something which is gone wrong and then do post-mortem, right? So that is what
Yes.
you do want to do. And you need to look at frame AI as a new control surface, not as a new attack surface, right? So it should be
Yes.
looking at creating some kind of a protection where you know who's what is the false positive, what is the right information, and where these false positives have happened over and over, and this is how the detection should happen. Am I right in saying
Yes.
that?
Yes. Correct. Because we AI is all about it's not like the earlier we do have a different tools we do use, like just new technology we do buy. There is another tool is coming up. There is a new tech is coming up. But AI is something different. It makes you a lot of choices for you. It decides on its own. Okay, like a human being, it knows what needs to do on that particular situation. You are feeding the data to that AI. That AI now decides which one is correct, which one is not, which one it has to act, which one it has not to act. But if that decision is not taken properly by that AI, then that's dangerous. Thing is like it has to be controlled. If that AI doesn't have the control, then that's a disastrous thing. Yeah.
Now, coming to the next point, if you have to give the CXO one sentence where AI will protect you if And how would you complete that statement? Because that's one thing that we need to specifically being telling the board, right? Or the
Hmm.
CXOs.
Yes, yes. I would say that AI will protect you when if you control what it learns, what data you feed it, what it decides, and how it is monitored.
Hmm.
If the board member or the CXOs knows this, then that's a one sentence I would say. In a simple manner, I would say AI will protect you if you govern its data and decisions and its behavior. That is what we have to govern. That's a one sentence I would say.
Great. So what you are saying in one sentence is uh, contrast to classical perimeter security versus model equals data and pipeline centric risk, right? So that is where we are talking about. And the real thing is that you have so many frauds things that are happening. That when you explain that to the board, I think that becomes a more value. And you also are saying in one statement saying that you need to tell the risk that they carry when you don't implement certain tools. Am I right in saying that, Michael?
It's all about the control we are talking about. Yes, everything comes under control. So we
Great.
talk about the risks and governance and the compliance part and the detection. Everything is there,
Okay.
but it's all come under. It should be controlled one. If
So
the CXs don't have the control of all these things, then they will take care of everything. That will lead to some dangerous instances.
yeah, got
Because AI also thinking like humans, AI also know how to take decisions. If it is not under control, then everything will goes dangerous way.
it. Okay. Now, if you have to, or if you had to draw a line or draw a AI system threat map on a whiteboard for a CISO, what
Okay.
are the top components you would highlight from data to model to APIs and to the user? So, how do you look at that, Joshua?
So if I draw an AI system on a whiteboard to for a CISO, I draw like a journey. I start with the data, training,
Mm-hmm.
model, API or application, user, and the feedback loop. So this is how I draw the journey for a system. And I see that for on each step, I mark one big question like the data, training, model, API, user, and the feedback. So for each step, I make one big question is who can touch this? What changes that guy can do? Who can trick that one? So what I highlight here is the data source. The first one is data source, where the data comes from.
Okay.
Whether it comes from the customers or it comes from logs or from the internet or from the partners or from any other source mediums. So that is the first thing where the data comes for that data source. The next one is data pipeline. How data is cleaned, stored and moved to that source. Here the data source, here the model. Between that we do have the pipeline. We have the clean data, we have the good model, but in that pipeline, how this has been stored and moved, that is very crucial. And the next thing is like training process, how the model learns, that is very crucial. Model itself is like where it's stored and who can have the access to change that model. The next one is API, how the users talk to that model. Next is users. Who are the users? The users are the employees, customers, attackers, who are pretending to like and users. They all the users. I'm talking about the legitimate as well as the attackers. So the last one is the feedback loop. The feedback loop, data that goes to improve the efficiency of the model. So by combining all these things, I would tell the CISO if any one of these is weak, the whole AI will get fooled. So out of all these seven, everyone has to be secure and should be in control.
Got it,
Yes.
Joshua. So what we are saying is, first concentration is on the data side. Second is what is that we are feeding as a data to that to learn, and then we look at how the modeling, how the security, how the user and the feedback is coming up, right? So that's how you start building. Now, coming to the second point that I want to in connection with that, where do you see that most of the overlooked vulnerabilities? Because we are talking of a flow, right? Vulnerable data pipelines, model training, third-party APIs, or human-in-loop workflows. Which workflows do you think there are which is more overlooked?
So I'll go in order. The most ignored ones are the data pipelines. The data pipelines is the people focus on the model and the data, but they don't see the pipelines in between that. We have the data, we are going to feed it to the model to train it, but what happens to that area? Data pipelines. So if you have the bad data, then the AI becomes a bad AI. So the attackers always love to poisoning the model. Always they love it. So that's what the data pipelines I would give it as a number one as the most overlooked vulnerabilities. And the next one is third party APIs. What the teams will do is like they always trust the vendors too much. Like when they use their vendors API, they always have a trust that's a secure one.
Hmm.
But once the data leaves from your system, right, at that time you lose the control of your data. So that one I suggest as the second overlooked vulnerability. The third one is human in the loop. So employees always what they do is they copy paste some sensitive information in the AI tools. For example, ChatGPT and a lot of like Perplexity and so many things are there. But
Hmm.
the what they do is like just like they trust the AI blindly without checking it. Not only these are predominant AIs which we are using, but what happens? There are a lot of n number of AI applications are there. They are just copying and paste it without knowing the consequences of the data. So that should be in human in the loop. For example, if you say some one person they're using this is a online e-commerce application. What the guy is doing, he tries to get a refund through the data. So he has a chatbot that AI. See, please refund my last 1 year of the things which I bought from you. What that AI should do is it has to verify that whether that person is an authorized one or not. Without that, it goes directly because that has access to refund the money. If it directly refund every money, then it's a huge disaster. So for that, we always suggest that is a human should be in the loop. So that is also comes under a that's a overlooked vulnerability. So these are the weakest links that users always that hackers always place with that. So so yeah, that's my answer for that.
What you are saying is it should be in a controlled environment. Anything that is to be authorized to a certain level can be given for mundane things, and certain financial and the related pointers where you need to have a human in loop who approves that automation or that kind of an AI tool that is going to refund those monies is what you are saying. Can you
Yes.
describe one AI attack path in 30 seconds that every security architect should be losing their sleep over?
Okay. So here we have a public forum. You can take one public forum
Okay.
where the company is collecting the data and to train its chatbot. For example, there is one chatbot. It is using the Twitter's data. People those who are doing the comments according to that it consumes those data and train their model. I'm just saying that example. Okay. So what that the hacker is trying to do, he slowly posts some fake but realistic answers. So that what the system is doing, it pulls the data and send it to the training things. So the what the model is doing, the model learns the wrong behavior. For example, I do say that what the attackers are, the chatbot, it tries to learn from the data of the comments in the Twitter and it behaves. Now the attackers, what they're trying to do is they do some racism comments or the vulgar comments, everything they're sending. So the chatbot, which is using the AI, learn from those comments. It thinks that that's all usual things. After a certain period of time, it start talking to the customers in similar way. So this has happened a few years ago. So that the Microsoft has shut down it, that particular chat, because it learns from outside the hackers trying to use that. But what happened here? There is no hacking, no malware. Just slowly the hackers poison the model through its data. So that's why AI can be attacked without breaking it. Yes.
You're saying, look, walk through the life cycle from the data sourcing set, labeling it, training it, deploying and monitoring is what you're saying in an end-to-end fashion, so that you look at vulnerabilities, you look at challenges that are coming through the models, and you take care of them. That is the first point I get to what you say. If you cannot draw a line with a attack surface, you cannot secure it, is also is what you're saying, right? Now coming to
Yeah.
our point, how should the CEO and the business leader connect AI security posture to a tangible business outcome like revenue, cost, brand reputation, and customer trust?
Okay. Okay. So, for example, I start with things like there are two startups. They both are selling the AI softwares. One is saying that we use AI, trust us. There is another software they are using the AI. For example, you take it as a CRM application, and the second one is showing that how they are controlling the AI and their audit logs and the AI risk report. Who the client chooses? The client is a very big client. Obviously, he would chooses the second one. Even though he is expensive, he knows that this guy controls the AI and it is more secure. That's how the customers and the business leaders ask. And this is on the customer side. Sorry, the client side. What about the customer side? The customers, they do ask, is your AI safe? Today, if you see that every applications or every e-commerce or maybe online booking applications, they are using chatbots. They are using the AI as a front line. In that, when I want to buy something or quick mail, I do give my data. So what I would ask first is my data is safe? Is my brand safe for my users? That's what I do ask, right? So a company which want to have a big deal because they have to show that they have a strong AI governance. For a CEO, AI security is not a tech topic; it's a business topic. How the revenues? For example, if in the purpose you mentioned about revenue, right? Customers buy from companies because they trust it. That's how the revenue generates. The cost is like we are fixing the a mistake. A is making some mistakes. That is very much expensive. It goes like fines, refunds, or maybe the many things that happen. That's a cost effective, or maybe that goes as a cost expensive as well. How you are managing that, it depends upon that, and that's a brand. See, one AI failure can go like viral in a minute because that goes fast as much. The last one is trust. If you take the trust, it takes years to build. If your AI misuse the data of your customers, immediately the trust will get break. So what I would suggest is AI security is like a product quality. If the quality is bad, the sales will get fall. If the security is weak, the trust get false and sales follow that one. So that's how for a CXOs or CEOs, I would suggest.
No, you brought an important point there where you are saying is the trust part becomes a very crucial thing, right? Now, most of the time, what we see is have the customers asking, "Have you seen?" Right? Or how do we look at? Have you seen deals stall, SLAs change, or RFPs harden because customers now ask, "How secure is your AI?" Your take on it.
Yes. So more and more, so RFPs now what they ask is, where is data stored?
Hmm.
Is
Okay.
your data used to train your AI? Can you audit your AI controls?
Hmm.
What happens if your AI fails? See, I have seen this multiple deals slow down because the product was bad, but the company had to clear about its AI risk. Some people have lost the deals also because they don't know the AI risk which the application has. Some has to redesign their AI process just to pass the customer's trust checks.
Now, where what is one story where AI security can become an advantage? Because not just as a compliance, because we've been talking over years. We've gone to a certain stage, but we still somewhere see that AI is still a checkbox kind of a thing, or security is a checkbox thing. Oh, because we are complying to certain guidelines, we take saying that we are compliant. We are using some AI tools, we are saying we are. How there is there one story where AI security became a growth advantage, not just a checkbox, Michael?
Okay. So I would go with some examples for this. So you take a mid-sized SaaS company, it's software as a service. So they built one application with AI feature. So instead of hiding the risk, they just showed what they showed. How did I mask before AI sees it? Who can change the model? How the incidents are logged? If some incidents have happened, like some firewall breaches or maybe the perimeter level breaches are happening, how the incidents are logged in the systems. So how the customers can opt out of the trade. So all these things they have showed up. So when the big enterprises clients they try to compare the vendors, that particular company looked something grown up and safe because they have showed the exact details like what happened if the instance happens, what they're going to do, where the data comes from, not just their AI is very smartest or like they because they felt the main thing is that they feel safe. You have a very good AI in your application, but if some instance happen, this is not logged, this is not taken care, all your data is out of control, then no clients will come. Thing is like how it felt safe. They want to feel safe when they use your application, even though you have a extraordinary features. So what I'm telling you is like when you have a strong AI security, that it didn't slow down your growth. That is a real reason the growth will happen. So that's a new truth. In the AI world, you don't have to just sell the futures of that AI. AI is doing these things. These are the futures. This can benefits you. You can tell many things. The one thing which makes the client confidence is all about the self confidence. That comes from the security of the application.
In turn, what you are saying is in the AI era where you see you don't sell only the product, because everybody has a product for something or the other, but you sell the proof of the control, saying that this is how I'll control your environment, this is how I will protect your environment, this is how I monitor your environment. So that's I think one thing that you are looking now. Coming to the GRC side part of AI, so traditional GRC frameworks were not written to generative AI in mind, right? So they were having the old structure where AI was not part of it. How can Risk and compliance teams adopt their control libraries to AI systems without starting from zero or starting from scratch.
Okay, so the old rule is control, we have the control access to the systems. What's the new version is we have to control access to the data, model, and the AI outputs. So don't throw the old rules, just upgrade them. You don't have to throw your old rule book. You teach it to the how to read the AI. So many of the GRC frameworks they already talk about the access control, change management, instant response, and the data protections. What AI makes a bigger change here is it touches the all the controls, not only systems, but here what we are going to touch here is data, models, and the decisions of AI. So instead of starting from zero, you take the existing controls which you are already having and ask, how do I apply to A and add any specific examples to that particular A and check it. So the structure is same. You have to focus smarter for the A features. That is, what are the data models and the decision of those AIs. That's how we have to use it.
So, where do you normally start with policy control mapping, class data classification, or model governance? Where do we start?
So we have to start with the data, not the model. Why I'm saying here? Because the data decides how the AI behaves. The data carries the privacy and the legal risk. Because bad data breaks even if you have the good models. As like we see the previous examples also, like how the chatbot learned from the Twitter comments. That's the data it taken from it. Then it process it and execute it. So the data we would go for that. So the order is data classification, where the data comes from, what data is sensitive, what data has to go into the AI. The next one is control mapping. If it's a control mapping, you have to map the existing controls to the data, the model, the API, and the output. We have to know the control mapping and the model governance. We can say who is going to train the model, who is going to change it, who has the approval, who is going to retain a model. All this has to be in a one place. So someone should be there to govern all these things. The next thing is policies. You have to update the policies, right? So they match the reality. We cannot go with some unrealistic policies. So the policy has to be made, not like a dream. So that's how this order, like data classification, control mapping, model governance, and the policies.
Now, if you had to define AI GRC in one slide for a board, what would be that slide talking about? Or what would be on that slide?
Okay, so I would show with four boxes. So what goes in right, what goes in, what thinks, what comes out, what happens when AI fails. These are the four areas I would show. So in a box is what I would do in the first thing is what goes in. What goes in is the data where that's a data sources. The sensitive data rules. What are the sensitive rules I have made it? What data I consider as sensitive and the concern and the privacy. These are the first thing I would made in the first box. What goes in? The next one is what things. What things is like which model, who controls the changes, whether it's biased or errors are checked. So what that particular model thinks about that. That's next thing. Third one is what comes out of that. Who uses the AI decisions? So we have the data, we have the decisions. We think the AI thought something and something is coming up, the decisions. But who is uses those AI decisions? So how humans can review those decisions? So how mistakes are handled? So these are the things we have to review in a what comes out. The last one is what happens if it fails, like the incident process, how we have to report to the leaders, the customer and the regulators communication. For example, the incident this happens like some attacker has breached the firewall. Okay, someone has breached the perimeter of that security. So in the defense of depth, if something has been breached, how your how your incident process, how you're escalating, how you are reporting to your leaders, within how much time you are fixing that issue. So at one sentence, I would say that AIGRC means we control the data, we what decisions the AI is making, and the damage. All these things has to be done before the damage control us. That's what my one sentence.
Okay. Now, what you are saying is in the other sense of saying that you talk about what is going in, what is coming out, what are the policies, what if it fails, right? So I think what you're tying up is to say how we are mapping with the existing frameworks, right? So how the
Yes.
data for each of the framework like ISO 27000, SOC 2, the HIPAA, GDPR. So based on the industry, you are saying it has to be mapped in a controlled way. Any outdated policies or procedures that are part of it has to be reviewed, and we keep that specific to the AI scenarios where the AIMS 42,000 also looks at what are the governance laws that are looking at and how these policies should be introducing an idea where AI aware controls instead of entirely new frameworks. Am I right in saying that, Michael?
Yes, yes, correct. You're correct.
Yeah. So you're saying in one sentence is AI governance fails when policies sound great and changes nothing in the production, right? So that's the kind of thing that we are talking about. Now, coming to the next point, what I want to understand is when AI is trained on customer or enterprise data, how do you balance the model performance with privacy, confidentiality, and integrity,
Okay.
Michael?
So the question you asked is how do you balance the model performance with the privacy, confidentiality, integrity? Right. So when
Yeah.
okay. So I would suggest that AI is like a child. It repeats what you teach. I say that AI is like a child. See, the company is training the AI through different mediums. For example, I would say one thing. There is a company. It trained its AI chat using the chat logs with the customers' details. The customers are buying something in their chat logs. So all these logs are trained for the AI. Later, sometime, the AI started repeating those details in the new chats as well. So the new chats, it should not reveal all the details. So what happened? The customers got scared because of that. That brand got damaged entire. Because the simple thing is, AI is like a cooking for your guests. It's a little one, or maybe you can make it as your servant. The more ingredients you make the food tastier, right? But what happens if you add a small poison into that? Even small mistakes will kill the everyone. That's what when you add more data to make the models smarter, but when one sensitive data can destroy the trust of your brand, law, and everything. So it should be the balanced one. So enough data should be useful, but never use the data that hurt the people or the business. So performance is important, trust is important. So that's my question for you. to balance the model performance with the privacy, confidentiality, and integrity.
Got it. How do you think about issues like data leakage in training, training on sensitive logs, and model memorizing secrets? Because when we automate, some of the secrets also are put into a file where they can fetch. And if you poison that, also there is chances of you getting affected, right? How do you talk about these pointers?
Okay, here, so AI does not forget anything easily. Okay, AI has its own short memory as well as long term memories. If you train the AI, the question is like, how do you think about data leakage training on sensitive logs or models memorizing the secrets? So when you train the AI with the passwords, API keys, or the private chats or the customer IDs, it may repeat them later also. Not because those are like no evil data, because what it has learned, that's how it is replicated. The sensitive logs are also very dangerous. In the logs, whenever the customer is trying to purchase something about they use their credit card details, banking informations, everything. Sometimes some applications do ask for even more sensitive details also. At that time, on the other side, they try to log everything what the user enters. But on the other side, AI, what it does for the AI, those data looks like normal data. They hide the secrets inside that. So they treat the data as like a luggage in the airport. So you need to know. So see, for example, when you go anywhere, so you will have some bags, different bags. Some bags you take it with yours. Some bags you in the airport you leave it without locking. Some bags you just must lock is must for that. So you should know how to use the AI, where to lock it, where to use it in a somewhat flexible way. So that's how you will be able to control or the data leakage or like we have to train on the sensitive logs. That's how we can control it.
What I'm trying to hear or getting from your point is there should be a clear policy in terms of the role that is working on certain data pointers. Say the user cannot control data which is very sensitive, right? And there should be a proper role based access control given to users who are using AI tools, is what I am getting to understand. And anybody and everybody should not have a permission to override some of the pointers that have been configured for certain service accounts or certain users. That is what we are seeing when we see. We talk about data which is minimal, differential treatment for sensitive fields, masking, synthetic data where not where it is appropriate, right? So it is not that you should have all the data given, okay? And that's where I think what you are saying in as many words, saying that promise that you give the clarity of view why the data is fed to the model and why it is not to be fed some certain sensitive data which can go dangerous, is what you are saying. Say I get your point there. Now what you are saying in other pointers, if you have data uh, is not safe, your AI is not safe as well, you are saying in as many words. And no matter how smart the model is, right? That's what
Yes.
you're trying to say. Many organizations rely on external AI platforms, right? Because not every AI implementation is affordable kind for many of the people, and APIs and SaaS tools are also required. So how should a CISO evaluate or govern third party AI risks without stalling innovation?
Okay. So the question which you like, CISOs evaluate and govern the third party risk without
Correct.
blocking the innovations.
Correct.
Okay. So every AI vendor is like hiring a new employees, but you can't see inside his brain. I would say that yeah, a simple story. The company is using a free API, free AI API.
Okay.
Later, sometime they found that their data was stored abroad, and they whatever the data is used or logged and reused. So before approving the AI vendor or us, we have to ask like where is my data is getting stored? Is it reused for training or there is a one-time use? Can I have access to delete the data which I sent? This should be the questions you should ask before you have to approve the AI vendors. Now, using the simple third-party AI is like I said, hiring a new employee you never met. So, what you need to do is like whether they are able to touch your data or influence your decisions, or whether that affect your customers. So, the goal of the CISO is not to block them; it is to trust or verify because they never know the new vendor how they are thinking, whether they are truly safe or not. So, the CISO should use a tiered approach, low risk tools. For that, what they need to do, they have to go for the light reviews. Some more like business or critical EAIs, they have to go for a deep reviews. And there is a customer facing AI. So I say like low risk business critical AI. The third one is customer facing AI. For customer facing AI is the strongest control they have to implement. For a business critical AI, they have to go with the deep review. The low risk, it has to be a light review. So that way, innovation moves faster, but risk has to be matched with the impact. So CISOs are not to prevent the innovations; they have to analyze the risk over them.
Now, what are the non-negotiable questions you should want to answer before approving any API or AI vendor?
Before approving any AI vendor or API, so what I always ask is the first thing comes first. Where is your data stored? Then is our data used to train their model or they have their own data? So how they're going to train the model? Are they going to use our data or what data? So once they store the data, do we have access to delete the data irrespective of any time? Or they do have any particular time? This is the time you will be able to delete, or after 30 days, or after 20 days. Those times only you will be able to delete. So we do ask such questions. Can we delete our data at any time, irrespective of any conditions? Who is inside your company can see our data? They do have a multiple um, segregations or multiple departments would be there. Who is inside their company can see our company's data. The next is what kind of logs and audit trials, if there are some incident happens, they do provide to us, whether they will provide us or not. So what happens if AI fails or some data leak happen? What kind of security mechanism they do have in front? So if they can't answer clearly, then they are not ready to touch my data. So that's the non-negotiable questions I do put in front of my AA vendor or AA or APA vendor.
Now, we see a lot of AI startups which they want to look at or onboard uh, customers to test train. That's what we see off late is what I see. If a startup says we are secure, trust us, what is the first response as a security leader that we should be asking?
Okay, so simple. Anyone can ask, not only myself, or maybe as a leader. And what you need to do is your first response should be very simple. Trust is not in a document. Show me the controls.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my case, what I would ask for the architecture, the data flows,
Hmm.
access rules, and the incident process.
Okay.
If there is something happens in incident, how they are processing that. Because in security, real trust that happens on the visibility, not on just the promises. I do something, I am secure. No, it's on. It should be show me the controls. That's the trust we do have to.
I think what you are saying is the question should be tailored in such a way that for AI, you're telling is where is the data getting resided? First point, how long is it rested or used, or who and all are the parties that are getting to use this data, and what is the kind of processing you do, what are the outputs that you are giving to us as a trained data, or are you cleansing it, are you logging it, are you isolating it from the production environments, are you testing this in the production environment as well? And also we talk about what are the contractual, the technical and operational controls that you use for the data that is getting used for training or even for testing some of the AI models. Now, we also should look at saying that is there a AI playbook that you use or a risk playbook that you are using? So, what is the outcome of those things? How do you track that? So, what are the metrics? What are the case studies? What are the standards that you use to use these methods? And I think that's the primary thing that you should be asking is what I get. With this, I think where you say is every AI vendor you onboard is a new brain to your business because that guy has a different set of policies, procedures that is following. Easy aligning to us is what we are saying, and that could be a new risk also to our ecosystem, right? So that's what we are talking. Uh, One last question I have for today's session, as we are on top of the hour, Michael. What does a modern AI security operating model look like across security, data, AI, and business teams?
Okay. So what does a modern AI security operating system model looks
Yeah,
across the security and
data,
business teams?
AI, and business model.
Business
Business.
teams. Okay. AI security is not one person's job. Security team says that AI is tech team problem. There is another one. Tech team is there. They are saying that security will handle the risk. At the end, nobody is going to handle that. The thing is, what does the modern AI security operating system looks like? A modern AI security tool is not a team. It's working the way of working like tech team or the security team. So earlier the security worked like a like police department. They came after something that went wrong. In the AI world, security must work like a designed team. They sit from day one. So the model looks like this. Instead of business, tech, security, now it becomes together.
Hmm.
Business, tech, security. Instead of that, business plus data plus AI plus security all together comes as a one layer. So think of it's like you are building a house. So business says that we want a beautiful house. The AI team says that we will design it very smart. Then there is another team is coming up, the data team. It is saying that we'll bring the best materials. The security team says that we'll make sure it doesn't collapse. So all four of these teams must sit together while drawing the houses, not once we build the house and we are thinking about each and everything. No, we have to create before building the house, like before creating any product. So in practice, what I mean, so in every big AI uses some small use cases, or we have to use a small squad like AI security squad. So that squad, what that wants is the data choices. What data it has to embed. What model they do have a choice. What's the risk decision they do have for a go live? Whether they do have some approval for a go live. What kind of incident handling they do have. So, uh, so we would say that security is not at the end. Security is the seat at the table. So at minimum, what I would say is like all of them have to work together.
Thank you for that. I would like to put some pointers or takeaways that we did in the last 45, 50 minutes of our session. So, the takeaways that I have noted is AI is both a shield and a weak link. That's what we are talking about, because when AI becomes your shield, whether it is a weak link is what we are talking about, and it must be treated as a new decision and a control surface, not just like another app, because that's what we stand there. Now, GRC, security, and AI must converge. Existing frameworks can be extended with AI aware controls rather than rebuild from scratch, that we spoke about, where we bring not work from scratch, use the existing things and build upon that which AI can enable, right? So that's the trust becomes your growth engine. Strong AI security, transparency, and governance directly influence deals, renewals, and even market proposition that you have. That's the pointer that we are. Culture and structure matter as such, as tools, as much as tools, because you cannot say culture is different, structure is different, both matter when we look at tools also. Cross functionals and AI sec squad skills, operating model decision, real world resilience is also what we are talking about. And the important point is we are securing it by design rather than doing a post-mortem. We are saying secure it by design is only substantiable path. Leaders who define AI risk appetite, measure it, and build AI security from day zero will own to the next decade, because it is not one day's work. AI models are growing rapidly, and you see that it is changing every day, and you need to protect it every day. So that's what is a takeaway that I have noted down from what we've been discussing. In a world where AI is rewriting how decisions are made, security is no longer a backstage function; it is a stage itself, right? So that is what we have spoken. And if you feel this episode would help some of the CXOs or the GRC leaders, this is our invitation to think how the invitation to rethink how AI security strategy growth come together in your organization. And any final pointers that you want to add before we conclude, Michael?
Yeah, see, AI is changing like nowadays how the decisions are made. Not only in tech, but in money, health, jobs, safety, and trust. And the truth is, every time you let a machine to decide something very important, you also deciding how much responsibility you will give it for the machines.
Hmm.
So security is no longer a backstage function; it's now a part of the leadership. So whether you are a CXOs or founders or builder or like building any companies, don't just ask what can I, what can AI do for us. Just ask what could AI do to us if we don't control it. So we have to build it faster, but build with wise options. So in the AI era, the companies that will not just the smartest, they'll be the most trusted ones. So that's my final part.
Thank you for that, Michael. And with this, we are at the closing pointer of our session. Thank you for joining us, audience. Thank you for joining, and Michael, thank you for joining. We've streamed this podcast live onto YouTube, Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn. Do let us know your feedback. Do let us know what can make us more, get you the topics that you want to listen or hear from the leaders. We are here to share that kind of a knowledge from the leaders and our experiences towards the community. Thank you for joining us, and good day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prem.
Yeah.